Hi, and welcome to the NBA Economy Show. This is Fritz again. Just checking in again. I know yesterday we had a live show, but we had some technical difficulties. So we're just kind of review the show, bring some information that we kind of forgot yesterday. The main point of the video is what's going on with Precious. But first, we're gonna just talk about the latest signing news, and that's the Knicks signing Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne, he signed for 1 year, $3.1 million. Seeing that his NBA service, that's a minimum deal. So the Knicks had a biannual exception, and so this is going to eat a lot of that biannual exception. The Knicks were looking at several point guards, um, but it seems that they came and chose Cam Payne, even though there was Tyus Jones on the board. It's just that we didn't have a good offer for Tyus Jones. Basically, we couldn't outbid other teams. We could pretty much offer him the same amount Washington was offering him, which was about $5 million a year. And with his role being diminished, it probably wasn't a good deal for him. Uh, as for Cam Payne, he's known as a good defender, good 3 point shooter, one of the funkiest shots in the league. Um, we see that it was needed because we really struggled when Jalen was off the floor in the playoffs, having good ball handling. I know a lot of people hoping hoping Deuce McBride would fill in that spot, but we see that Deuce McBride really struggled with the full court press in the playoffs. Um, so it really doesn't look like Deuce is going to be the backup point guard for the Knicks, and sometimes a shooting guard. His role kind of in question right now. Let's first just look at what Cameron Payne brings, and yeah, he's 6'3", 29 years old. And these are his numbers with the 76ers, and he had good numbers for a backup. Um, the 38.8 3 point percentage is something that we do need. And at the end of games, free throw shooting has really been an issue, and that's something we can really use at the end of the game with his defense. Where does this put Deuce? It really the depth chart really puts Deuce in question because he's a third shooting guard. Um, some would say he's probably the best backup point guard. But with Ian Begley, he said the Knicks really um, believes the deal for Payne isn't a direct reflection of how the Knicks view McBride, noting that the team did its utmost to keep the fourth man out of the Brooklyn bound package that landed Mikal Bridges. Um, Also, that they don't see Deuce McBride as necessarily um, uh, an on-ball player, but an off-ball player. So that lets you know that they don't really see him as a point guard, but as a third shooting guard, that puts his spot in the rotation in question. Because we see here that Josh Hart is listed as a small forward, but we saw that he really filled in at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward when needed. Um, that makes you really think of when the next trade happens, will Deuce McBride be involved? Just because the roster is just so lopsided. Um, it really does look like Deuce may be the next piece moved. Um, so we're gonna definitely look. We're gonna pay attention as we go forward. If they're going to bring it in another center, Deuce may be the next piece going out. Okay, so as our main question is what's going on with Precious Achiuwa. Um, just because Precious Achiuwa showed himself as very valuable last season, um, he really stepped in when needed after coming from Toronto. He didn't do great at center, but he filled in when needed. He showed that he was a nice piece at power forward, and we see as free agency has gone along, a lot of power forwards have gotten some very nice deals. We know our biannual exception is mostly gone because of Cam. Um, so where does that put him? Well, the Knicks decline um, did decline to match um, his qualifying offer so that we can just match anything he was offered. So that isn't it. We still have his bird right, so we can still offer him a contract. Um, the reason why Precious Achiuwa hasn't been moved is the Knicks are holding him to see if he wants if they want to include him in a deal going out in a signing trade. Um, so why would Precious stick around? Why hasn't he just signed with someone else and just guarantee a paycheck? Well, the Knicks probably have a handshake deal with him, guaranteeing that he's going to get paid. So, how would they do that? Um, Basically, telling him um, if we send you out in a signing trade, you'll be well compensated. So, um, you'll probably make a lot of money for a year if we send you out in a trade. If we can't find a trade for you, we'll just sign you ourselves, and we can go up to that second apron line. So currently, there's $13.6 million. That doesn't mean they would use it all on him, but they can use up to that amount. Um, we know that the Knicks, from Ian Begley, are continuing to be in touch with Precious Achiuwa. They think they also had casual trade talks with high salary veterans on high salary centers on the trade market, and the the way you get those high salary centers on the trade market is that you need to match the money, and to match the money, that would be using Precious Achiuwa. Um, that would be using Precious Achiuwa in signing trades. Currently, the Knicks only have two decent trade assets, and besides the draft picks, and that's Deuce McBride and Precious Achiuwa. Um, so when you look at a lot of these center names, uh, think of one of those two going out. If it's high, one or two of them going out if it's a high salary player. Um, on the Nick of Time show a couple days ago, we discussed a few names. Seeing that we signed Cameron Payne, that reduced the amount of money that we could match. So at this point I would look under $20 million. So $20 million is probably the highest that we can probably match. That's probably um, giving the most to Precious Achiuwa in a sign and trade. Also giving Deuce. Um, also including another player. Um, so um, yeah, so look under $20 million. There are options in on the Bulls, Orlando, and of course Utah, where we continue to speak to. Hey, Coach Yar, thanks for coming in. Okay, so yeah, we had Precious sign as high as 16. Now it's 13 because of the Cam Payne signing. So we have less money available. So we're gonna keep our eyes on Precious when it comes to these centers. Just because when we look at this chart, it's unbalanced. Um, Basically, between power forward and center, um, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims, and Jericho Sims has really found it hard. Really find it hard for him to solidify his place in the rotation. So look for us to add there and use Deuce McBride and probably Precious Achiuwa to make that happen. All right. Yep. In our next piece of news, we see that Skip Bayless is going to end his run on Undisputed and FS1. It is Skip Bayless has been a polarizing figure. He has infamous beefs, especially with LeBron. We know his time is pretty much numbered after his incident with Shannon Sharp. Um, and we saw that the incident was just so volatile that they needed to take a break. They needed to rebrand. He not only went with one host, he had multiple hosts, but they just never really caught on after. Um, Also, looks like FS1 is the one putting him out, opposed to him quitting. Um, Reporters went out there and pretty much asked ESPN, is ESPN, uh, do they want to bring Skip Bayless back? And usually you wouldn't get an answer back. Um, but they asked First Take, and you know who's the head honcho at First Take. And the answer that came back was ESPN is not interested in a reunion with the former Morning Star Skip Bayless. So that's like harsh. That's harsh. so, um, and they also said we are all set with the current First Take rotation, and we'll skip the best on his future endeavors. Um, so yeah, so it doesn't look like he's heading to ESPN. But with this new TV deal and some new networks, there will be some new jobs opening up. So we just never know what's gonna be happening with him. I'm just gonna look at the comments one more time. Ghost GR, can the Knicks still trade? I'm sorry, trade money in a deal since they're under the second apron. Actually, I think there's some miss. Um, there's some people that aren't really understanding. So cash can be added to a trade. Like you can give someone money as an incentive. Um, so if I trade a $10 million player for a $10 million player, um, and I want to add $5 million cash, it still counts as 10 million. It's just I'm giving you a bonus of five. And the reason why teams do this is if I gave you a player who has a maybe a $1 million buyout next year, instead of saddling you with that $1 million, I'll be like, hey, here's the player for the trade. I know you're going to spend $1 million next year, so here's $1 million to pay for that next year. but doesn't factor into a trade. So cash doesn't factor. It's not going to help you match money. It's just a bonus for the other team. So, but in the new CBA, um, cash actually it actually could let me see. Yeah, if you're in the second apron, you're not allowed to send out cash at all. And yeah, yeah. So if you're in the second apron, you can't send out cash at all. I don't think it's really a factor. It's the Knicks, they would send it if they need to, but it's not really it's not really a big thing anymore. All right. So Skip Bayless is all set. Yes, the next point on the agenda, the roommate show will have a Central Park event. Um, I believe this is in September. And actually, let me look this up. Yeah, September 7th, 2004. And this is in Central Park. Um, so we're seeing this podcast is starting to do really big things. We see Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and it looks like it's a ticketed event. So if you're interested, go to Roommates Live. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of podcast meetups. I'm sure this is going to be an event a lot of people will want to get to, but it's ticketed. So if you're interested, go to Roommates Live. And the last portion is James Dolan sends a letter to the NBA over TV rights. We see that con- he continually is the loudest person when it comes to the owners in the NBA. We see that he's upset with how they're splitting uh, the revenue. Okay, I'm just gonna answer another question. So I thought it would help because Minnesota's cash strapped, and adding that to sign and trade pressures will less what we're giving him. Yeah, that's not how it would work. Yeah, cash is just a bonus. It doesn't help a trade. Um, it's just you're just giving them money on top of whatever you're giving them. It doesn't factor into the trade. Um, and also they're gonna have new owners. They have no problem with money. Um, yeah, so so we see James Dolan. Yeah, so James Dolan is pretty much upset with how they're splitting the money with the new TV deal, and he says that successful teams are being forced to share money with their non-successful teams due to the new deal. One of the issues he has, especially, is the league office. Pretty much every year was getting $8 million just going to the NBA league office, and with this new deal, every year on the new TV deal is now going up to $346 million going to the league office, and he just wants to know what's the justification for this change. Um, Also, with the TV deal, we see that MSG has really become a large, a large, a large entity. We see if you want to watch an MSG game, a single game could cost you $30. Um, a single a month costs you a lot of money. But you have other teams uh, who barely have a TV contract. You have other teams like the Phoenix Suns. When their new owner came in, they didn't have a channel that they were on, and they're all getting the same money back from the league. They're also, if they choose the Knicks to be on national TV, which now they have um, way more days that they have games. So pretty much 7 days a week, they're going to be having uh, NBA games broadcasted either on Amazon, ESPN. Um, that that those games he can't sell for MSG, so he can't collect his $30 from people who really want to see it. It really takes away from his whole MSG operation. So he's really upset about that. So he's really upset with that. And let me see. Also, he's saying pretty much that pretty much all the franchises are are pretty much set up to bring in the same amount of money. And him being in New York, having a bigger market share, he feels that he should get more of the money. If they're the bigger draw, they should get more money coming in. So it's almost all NBA teams are set up to be successful, and he thinks he's put in more groundwork than the other teams, and he should reap the benefits. All right, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Keith Watkins, hey, thank you. That's pretty much all I have, unless you have any more questions. So yes, we're happy about Cam Payne coming in. Um, that pretty much puts Deuce's position in question because they don't really see him as a point guard anymore. He's third on the depth chart on shooting guard, but that's also a position where Josh Hart plays. So it really looks like Deuce is the next person out. When it comes to Precious, we see that Precious is probably working with the Knicks on a trade out. Um, but if the trade out doesn't happen, we could probably see him coming back on a deal. And if he comes back on a deal, I think that very likely you'll see him go out uh, in the middle of the year. So the Knicks are really going to try to um, make that work. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much all I had. Uh, Thank you. Like and subscribe. Um, Leave a question if you watch the video in the comments. Definitely hit the bell so you know when we go live. Leave any questions and I'll try to answer in my next video or in the comments. I hope you guys have a great day. If anything pops up, I'll definitely jump back on live. We see the Knicks are lost their two first summer league games, and hopefully they get back on track. But doesn't look like they're on the championship path. So you have a great day, and talk to you soon.